Goodbye YouTube, how's it going everybody? Got for y'all today another 6th gen Wi-Fi battle, and this was against one of my very good friends, ZeBigCheese33, aka Dante, and this battle was actually easily my best 6th gen Wi-Fi battle and one of the best battles I've had in a very long time, so definitely stick around for the whole thing. Now, I don't want to ramble on too much. Now, looking at team preview, looking at Dante's team, I knew that Gengar was going to be easily the biggest threat on his team, especially if it did turn out to be Mega Gengar, which 9 times out of 10 they normally are. Also, if I lose my Venusaur, Azumarill is going to be a major problem that I'm going to have to watch out for. Also, Aegislash, if I allow it to get up to +4, I'm basically screwed. So yeah, he's got 3 big threats on his team. Noivern shouldn't be too big of a problem because I do have Venusaur and Skarmory that can deal with it. Tyranitar shouldn't be an issue whatsoever. And then Blissey, I doubt will be able to do anything to my team. So yeah, with that, let's get the battle started. Alright, so Dante's going to be leading off with his Tyranitar. I'm going to be leading off with my Rotom. I know that he most likely is just going to go straight for the Stealth Rocks, which I really don't care about because my Excadrill does have Mold Breaker, so I can knock out Gengar with an Earthquake, and I can knock out Aegislash with an Earthquake and just spin away the hazards later on in the game. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to burn him with the Will-O-Wisp. That way I can start getting that well-needed residual damage on his team, because if I get rid of Tyranitar, I get rid of the Sandstorm, and my Venusaur does have Synthesis, which only recovers 1/3 of your HP in sand. So after going for the Will-O-Wisp, I'm thinking that he's going to want to switch out to Blissey, so I Volt Switch into my Hydreigon, and the reason I did this is because I wanted to bait him to bring in Blissey. That way I can double switch into either my Mamoswine or my Skarmory. So by bringing in my Hydreigon, I can hopefully force him to do that, and it turns out that I actually forgot my item on my Hydreigon, and I thought to myself, well, maybe he thinks it's Scarf, so I can hopefully use that to my advantage. So this turn, I double switch into my Skarmory thinking, okay, he's going to bring in Blissey. I can start getting up my spikes. No, he stays in and he goes for the Stone Edge, I guess maybe thinking that my Hydreigon was Scarf because he didn't see Leftovers or Life Orb, which is really good information for me. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to go for a layer of Spikes, which was actually very risky, just for the sole fact that if he had Fire Blast, he possibly would have been able to knock out my Skarmory. Luckily he doesn't, and he does end up going straight for the Stone Edge. As this turn, I'm going to predict him to predict me to go for another layer of Spikes, and I'm actually going to go for the Brave Bird, predicting him to bring in the Gengar, which is exactly what happens. I'm going to get off an easy 60-65% of damage off on this Gengar, which is really great for me because now I'm very positive that my Mamoswine's Life Orb Stabbed Ice Shard will be able to one-hit KO it, so it's going to be very good for me later on in this battle. So predicting him to go ahead and Mega Evolve, and knowing that Mega Gengar has Shadow Tag and could possibly easily knock me out with a Shadow Ball, I'm actually going to switch it to my Hydreigon as Death Fodder, but he ends up going for the Thunderbolt. Now here, because Dante knows that I do not have Leftovers of Life Orb, he's actually going to switch out, fearing the fact that I am Scarfed, which is really good for me because this Hydreigon is actually a sub 3 attacks one, and I did just go for the Dragon Pulse, considering the fact that, well, Gengar has Shadow Tag when it's in its Mega Evolution, and I couldn't switch out anyways. So he brings in Blissey, get off no damage, like, at all. That damage is really not going to be helpful to me whatsoever. So predicting him to go for a Toxic or a Thunder Wave, I switch into my Venusaur, knowing that this is my perfect chance to go ahead and Mega Evolve and get the Thick Fat ability as well as my raised defense and special defense. So knowing that he can't do anything to me and knowing that his whole team is affected by Leech Seed, that's what I'm going to end up going for as he brings in this giant ass threat known as Aegislash. My 2 stab moves are obviously Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb, which will do nothing to Aegislash, and he can easily set up the +6 on my Venusaur and then proceed to sweep through my team. So what I have to do this turn is switch directly into my Skarmory, hoping that even at +2 he will not be able to knock me out with one hit, because I do have the Whirlwind on my Skarmory and I can Whirlwind him out, and that'll be really good for me because I can later deal with Aegislash when he brings it back in. So he does end up going for the safe Swords Dance, which is what I knew he would go for, considering that he could have easily used my Venusaur for setup fodder. I know that this turn he might just go for another Swords Dance, or he will go straight for the Sacred Sword. So what I'm going to do is make a very risky play and go straight for a layer of Spikes, because if anything I want to have at least 2 layers of Spikes so I can ensure that that Mega Gengar will be knocked out by my Ice Shard from my Venusaur. So he ends up going for the Sacred Sword as I thought he would. I'm able to easily take the hit, and after Leftovers and Leech Seed recovery, I know I will be able to take another one, but the question is he going to predict me to Roost and go for a Swords Dance, or go straight for the Sacred Sword. And I was really hoping that he would predict me to go for the Roost and go for another Swords Dance, but no, Dante does go straight for the aggressive play, goes for the Sacred Sword. Thankfully, I'm able to live on 10 HP, and I whirlwind him out into the perfect Pokemon, allowing me to now freely go for a Roost, knowing that Blissey can literally not do anything to my Skarmory. So he's gonna go ahead and switch directly into his Noivern, predicting me to go for the Roost, considering the fact that that is really the only move that I can go for. And then this turn I'm thinking, alright, he's gonna go for the Flamethrower. Mega Venusaur has Thick Fat, and I have a very good amount of special defense EVs invested into my special defense. So I'm going to switch into my Venusaur. He's going to go for the Draco Meteor, predicting me to switch out. And I'm thinking, I can take this, no problem. That is way too much damage, and he's going to be able to easily KO me with the Draco Meteor, which really sucks because the main thing I had for Azumarill is now gone, which means Azumarill has just become major threat number 1. So considering the fact that he is at -4, I know this is my perfect chance to bring in my Mamoswine and get up my Stealth Rock so I can ensure that Mega Gengar will die off to the injury hazards. So he's going to bring in the Tyranitar just as death fodder, obviously, but as I said, I'm going to go for my Stealth Rocks. And what I do this turn is actually switch into my Skarmory, which I guess is kind of an odd play because I easily could have been able to knock out this Tyranitar with the Earthquake, but what I was thinking was I can bring in Skarmory, go for the Roost, and get up my final layer of Spikes, so that way I'll have all of my entry hazards up and his team will be losing a huge amount of damage, a huge amount of HP every time they switch in. So he ends up going for, I believe, the Earthquake, which obviously I am not affected by because I am a flying type. Then this turn what I'm going to do is actually go for the Roost, thinking that maybe he wants to bring in the Noivern or the Azumarill, predicting me to go for my final layer of Spikes, but no, he does end up going for the Stone Edge. I guess maybe he thought that Earthquake wouldn't do more damage, or he actually thought that I might have gone for my last layer of Spikes, which is understandable. Then this turn I make a very good and bad play in my opinion. It's good in the sense that once I knock him out with the Brave Bird, I will be in sturdy range. It's bad in the sense that this would have been the best chance I would have had to get up my final layer of Spikes. So I'm thinking, okay, Mega Gengar is no longer a problem. He can bring in Noivern, I can live a hit, knock him out with Brave Bird. He can bring in Azumarill, I can live a hit and get off a huge hit with Brave Bird. But no, Mega Gengar literally lives on like 1 HP, and then I miscount the sand turns and I go for the Roost instead of going for the Brave Bird, and I just basically lose my Skarmory due to my own stupidity because, as I said, Mega Gengar does have the Shadow Tag, so I can't switch out anyways, and he's going to be able to easily knock me out with the Shadow Ball. Although now I can easily bring in my Mamoswine, and obviously with him being around 1 or 2%, a Ice Shard will definitely be more than enough to knock out Mega Gengar. So that's really good for me that I got rid of one huge threat. Unfortunately, he brings in big ass threat number 2, Azumarill. And I know that he's just going to go straight for the Aqua Jet. And at this point, Hydreigon is honestly the least helpful team member that I have to me right now. And heck, Hydreigon at Team Preview was already my most expendable team member. So yeah, if I needed to death fodder something, the first thing that was going to go was Hydreigon, which really sucks because I really wanted to use Hydreigon. Maybe in another battle. But anyways, he knocks me out with the superpower, and I can now get a free switch into my Rotom. Obviously, the switch into Blissey is very obvious. So I really have no choice but to go for the Volt Switch. I guess I could have gone for the Hydro Pump, but that honestly would have been my worst and dumbest play that I could have done. So I Volt Switch back out into my Mamoswine, because this way, if he does bring in the Noivern, I can just go for the Ice Shard next turn. And I believe he does just end up leaving in the Blissey, because at this point he really has nothing that can take anything from my Mamoswine, and Blissey is just basically useless to him. So I'm able to get rid of the Blissey as he's going to bring back in the Azumarill. And at this point I know that if he goes for the Play Rough, I will be able to stay and outspeed him and knock him out with the Earthquake. Unfortunately, I cannot risk that, so I'm thinking that he's going to go for the safe Aqua Jet, and I'm going to switch into my Rotom, take the hit, then go for the Volt Switch. But no, Dante does predict that, and he's going to go for the Play Rough, utterly annihilate my Rotom, allow me now to get my free switch back into my Mamoswine, and much like before, I can easily just go for the Earthquake, because even if he predicts that and brings in the Noivern, I can then just go for the Ice Shard. But he actually switches into the Aegislash, thinking that maybe I would go for the Ice Shard or Stone Edge, which I guess is kind of understandable, but I'm able to get rid of that as he brings back in the Azumarill. It all comes down to this. Will Azumarill be able to live my stabbed adamant life formed Ice Shard? So I'm gonna go for it. If I do not knock him out with this Ice Shard, I lose. But thanks to all those entry hazards that I managed to get up, I'm able to knock out Azumarill, basically winning me the battle, because as he brings in the Noivern, being 4 times weak to Ice Shard, it will easily be able to get knocked out by it, and that's going to be the 2-0 victory in my favor. And yeah, that was definitely a fun, intense battle. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. For those of you who did link your Google account to your YouTube account, feel free to leave a comment. For those of you who have not, then feel free to leave a like. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the battle. And with that, I am out of here, so I will see you guys soon, hopefully, and later, everybody.